and welcome to BQ Prime. Well, if you've gazed outside of your windows, you've seen the smog that Delhi and Mumbai have been witnessing the past few weeks. Today, we're in conversation with Ronak Sutaria, founder at Respiro Living Sciences, and Professor Milind Kulkarni, president at Prakriti Foundation, for their insights on this ongoing smog. Hello, thank you so very much for taking time out for us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Pallavi.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So, I'd like to begin with you, Mr. Kulkarni. We've been witnessing this phenomenon year after year, and it's clearly getting worse and going on for longer. So, in case of Mumbai, to begin with, are infrastructure projects largely to blame for what we're seeing? Because so far, I think the seas have helped aid or lessen air pollution levels in Mumbai at least. What's changed in recent times?
Yeah, it is a cumulative effect, I will say. So these sources were there right from the beginning. And as the economic activity has increased after COVID times, these sources are further increasing. Construction projects or infrastructure projects is one part of the problem. But to really talk you frankly, we really don't have any idea about what are the different sources and what are their contributions. For example, infrastructural projects are there, but apart from that, there are a lot of illegal activities going on, like dumping of construction and demolition debris. There are emissions going on from the dumping sites of Bombay Municipal Corporation at Devnar, Kanjurmarg, etc. There are a lot of industrial activities which are going on in the illegal structure or unauthorized structure. Transportation is also one of the biggest sources. Because of these activities, traffic jams are happening. So, we are just talking in a layman's language that because of the infrastructural projects, it is increasing. But what I feel is we require a scientific study like source apportionment and find out what are the various sources. The previous sources studies have told us that resuspension of dust from the roads is one of the major sources of this air pollution. So I will say that yes, prima facie, we feel that the construction or infrastructural projects is one of the sources. But apart from that, there are many other sources also, and we need a proper scientific studies of inventorization, source apportionment to find out exactly what is the contribution from each of these sources.
All right. Mr. Sutaria, would you broadly agree with that? And also to add on to that, in multiple metropolitan cities across the world, especially in developing economies, we have seen a rampant pace of construction or development activities. I'm curious to understand, why do we have AQI levels through the roof, among the highest in the world? Why is this phenomenon, several Indian cities rank among the most polluted in the world globally? So, what's different in case of India?
So, Pallavi, yeah, thanks for having me. I think with regards to the pollution levels in Mumbai, and over the past 5 years, one of the things that has happened is the haze is very visible, for the residents. When you look outside your window, you're seeing that haze, you're seeing the smog, and it feels like polluted. And that's been happening for the last 5 years, maybe longer. One thing that has happened is the number of monitoring locations in Mumbai have doubled, in the last 5 years. And what that essentially leads to is greater level of insights into these locations. So earlier we used to have about 10 to 12 locations which were managed by NPCB. A couple of years ago, the Suffer network was added to it, and the locations became about 24 to 25. Effectively, what happened is that the quality of debate, obviously, and the quality of insight improved significantly. That does not mean that pollution fundamentally has changed, because monitoring obviously does not change the sources themselves. But the level of understanding of the different locations, we have now a much greater insight. we know that particulate matter actually has doubled this October as compared to the same time last October. Insight like these, whereas NO2 and ozone have fallen by about 30%. So NO2, ozone are pollutants, gas toxic pollutants from vehicular emissions. VOCs and some of the other pollutants are secondary gas pollutants. So the level of insight that we have now is significantly higher than what it was 5 years ago. Having said that, with regards to sources, as the professor earlier mentioned, the dust definitely has increased across the city. So at least some of the initial analysis of the data from the past 5 years is indicating that the particulate matter pollution is significantly on the rise in Mumbai. A couple of gas pollutants are on the decline. And that essentially tells us that there are some things which are working and there are some things which are significantly not working. Globally, if you look at this, and India has started coming on the map because we've been working in this field since 2016, and the number of regulatory grade or the government-backed data sources on an hourly basis has doubled in the last few years. So the rise or the increase in the cities that we are seeing, of course, is an indicator of the increase in pollution. But it's also an indicator that more in-depth hyperlocal information is being collected now, and it is being reported in a real-time manner. So what essentially has happened is, all of us in winter, so coming back to the actual sources, because the data is reflecting a picture on the ground, cities, are severely bearing the brunt in winter months. One, of course, dust remains a consistent factor, but particulate matter invariably comes from burning, and winter months, the level of burning at the domestic level increases substantially. Summer months and monsoon months, it's primarily industrial burning that we observe. But winter months, people use, burning to keep themselves warm, to warm their water, and on cold nights they burn wood and other sources. Essentially, when done it at a complete city scale, this significantly adds to it, combined with the fact that the mixing height starts reducing substantially in winter months. So that ends up trapping all the particulate matter pollution. And we see this significant winter effect where ground level sources are increasing from burning and mixing height coming
Mr.
down.
Sutaria, is this more of a North India issue, the issue of burning that you're outlining? Of course, stubble burning, industrial burning, as well as burning, other sources, say wood, for instance, to keep yourself warm.
It's related to temperatures, and South India does not experience the kind of cold weather which North experiences. So it is an unfortunate situation, and also North India is more landlocked. So we looked at these cities over the last 7 days, and surprisingly, the number of cities which were in the severe category have shot up from about 3 to 4, which had an AQI of about 500, are now at about 14 to 15 cities which are reporting 24-hour levels of particulate matter, which is more than 400 micrograms. And to remind you, a particulate matter of about 8 to 10 is what is recommended. We are talking of 400 to 450 PM 2.5 levels, over a 24-hour to 7-day period. And the number of cities which are staying in this is now close to 14 to 15 cities. So it is, and if you look at the cleanest cities, we track also the cleanest cities in India, and most of them are reporting less than 10 micrograms or between 10 to 15. And all of these are in the Northeast and in Tamil Nadu and south of India. So definitely the geographical, and the meteorological impact is very evident in the air quality situation. But the North Indian situation is a combination of man-made problems combined with their geographical location. Not taking away anything from the anthropological or the human-induced pollution. To answer your question, it's a cumulative effect of parali and stubble burning combined with the severe dust and industrial pollution that we have.
All right. So, would it be fair to say that the measures we've seen so far, so in case of Mumbai, for instance, there are curbs on construction activities. In Delhi, of course, we have seen that measures that that the governments have been trying to promote to prevent stubble burning have met with extremely limited success at this stage. So, would it be fair to say that these measures, at best, are quick fixes, Mr. Kulkarni?
Perfectly. So, what we are observing is that when winter approaches, authorities take some knee-jerk reactions like smog towers, like guidelines. So, what is required is a long-term action plan, and we need a proper enforcement framework, enforcement structure, which is absent totally. So, in case of Maharashtra or Mumbai, we see there are different authorities like uh, Maharashtra Pollution Control Board, Bruhan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, Transport Department. They are working in silos, and then we end up with some knee-jerk reactions like smog tower, construction guidelines. So what we need is a proper framework and sound enforcement. So what we feel is there is lack of political will. We see that during G20, there were immediate actions taken and there was some improvement in the air quality. In case of Beijing also, we saw that when the Olympics were there and air quality was deteriorating, they took action and now the air quality of Beijing is very good. So if Beijing can do it, why not Mumbai? Why not Delhi? So what we need is a proper authority, proper environmental enforcement infrastructure or framework, which will be the overarching authorities over all these authorities which are in silos. And when citizens complain or there are bodies of citizens we complain, the authorities should take immediate action, which is not happening. So accountability is also absent, and therefore it is a need of the hour to create a proper infrastructure, and accountability should be fixed. For example, if there is a complaint of air pollution, if citizens complain to pollution control board authorities like sub-regional officers, so they should immediately respond by taking action. And generally, we see that the controls are applicable more for the private organizations like private industries, which comes under the purview of industrial areas. But many times we see that the government authorities themselves, like in Andheri, there is RTO authority. A lot of dumping takes place there, and as a citizens' bodies, we have complained to Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. But we see that after complaints were consistently for 5 years also, there is no action taken by the Pollution Control Board as well as the Regional Transport Authority, which is the government authority. So it is the cumulative effect. All this worsening air quality is the cumulative effect of all these sources, all this inaction by the enforcement authorities. Even public, sometimes they are active, sometimes they are not active. And wherever public is helping by complaining to the authorities, immediate action should be taken. There should be some consistent follow-up. For example, if we don't pay our income tax, our GST, the government authorities write SMS to us whether you have paid your income tax, GST. But when we lodge a complaint, then similar follow-up should be taken by the higher level government authorities with the, for example, sub-regional officers of Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. Yes, this complaint has come by email. What action you have taken? What follow-up action you have taken? So nothing of that sort is existing. Earlier, PMC has constituted one task force, but we don't know what really happened to that task force, what were their recommendations. So transparency, follow-up action, and political will and honest intention to bring air quality of Mumbai to proper standards. Actually, our standards itself, which are called as National Ambient Air Quality Standards, they are quite lenient compared to the World Health Organization. For example, in case of PM 10.2.5, our Indian National Ambient Air Quality Standard is 40 micrograms meter cube, whereas the WHO standard is 15 micrograms per meter cube. And whatever our standard of 100 microgram per meter, 40 microgram per meter cube for PM 2.5, it is exceeding by sometimes by 2 times, 3 times. So it is a emergency, I will say, as far as the air quality of Mumbai is considered, and we should attack it with proper political will and based on the scientific analysis.
Okay, so Mr. Sutaria, can we expect AQI to worsen in the coming weeks, considering it's only the beginning of November and we do tend to see air quality conditions deteriorate around December?
It will, Pallavi. Diwali, of course, will peak. Diwali night, everyone knows it's going to hit more than 500, 600. But through the winter, the levels will worsen. And, the situation is going to get tough. So, of course, on one hand, while we are addressing sources, we are addressing the regulatory and governance framework. On the other hand, the precautionary measures for people who are vulnerable should be done. And outdoor activities should be reduced substantially, especially in the early morning hours. So all sports and exercise activities or even walks and all in winter months in the morning hours should be reduced substantially. So so yeah, I think to that effect, the winter is going to be a very tough period. And we've seen that it'll keep worsening till December and January. I think just on a note with regards to what was being asked about the bodies who regulate pollution, and one of the realizations when we look at I think the speaker in the earlier he mentioned about China and all these other cities which have managed to control their pollution significantly. We've been studying the framework in a couple of cities in the West, and especially in Southern California, where pollution was extremely bad. The LA smog was quite famous. We found that currently they have, close to 700 to 800 scientists and technologists working in a single city, addressing a problem like this. So what I would highlight here is that along with governance and things, what you need is a huge army of people, and especially headed by scientists. We found that this problem is a complex chemical composition problem, along with, of course, governance and regulatory implementation. But understanding the sources, and air is far more complex than most other pollution sources. It requires a team of scientists and technologists to keep a track of, literally every day. They need to be looking at hard data from across the city. And similar to what was mentioned about source apportionment, but correlating that with different sources on the ground in a real-time manner, or at least on a weekly manner. And the ability to do that actually requires significant scientific capabilities to be built. So the capacity building within the existing organizations, I can tell you, and I think your question was, one of the questions you asked is that, are these actions so far? I'll tell you that actually there have been no actions. There have been some, attempts to make certain things to visually, kind of show that something is happening. But anybody who closely evaluates the situation will tell you that what is being done is extremely, far short of what is needed. And this problem requires an army of, in my assessment, an army of at least 500 people working, full time, working around the clock, 24/7, in a mission mode, in a emergency mode across the city. And then, they need to firmly believe that this is a problem which can be solved. So one fundamental, and I think the speaker also mentioned that intent is very important. The belief and the intent that this is a problem which can be solved is something which the team working on it needs to have. And we have enough case studies in front of us, of course, in cities outside India, who have controlled this and brought down, improved the air quality by over 50% in a matter of few years. So whereas our cities are on the decline, and there are examples abroad where improvement is substantial. So to that effect, I would say that what we are doing is extremely far short of what needs to be done, and it's a direct outcome of not having the necessary governance framework and the scientific and technical rigor that is needed in the process.
All right. One last question for you, Mr. Kulkarni. So, considering that these are conditions we're likely to be living with in the foreseeable future, can you shed some light on what is the cost to health and even the associated economic costs, direct and indirect, to problems such as these?
Yeah, very good question, Pallavi. So there are numerous scientific studies. We have evaluated the cost of this high pollution, given that we are staying in that. So there was a study by University of Chicago, which concluded that the human life due to air pollution is going to significantly reduce, in some cases from 5 to 10 years, because of the air quality in worsening air quality in the cities like Mumbai and Delhi. And of course, coupled with that, the loss to economy will be in billions of dollars, because it will be significantly affecting the children and old people whose respiratory systems are inherently weak, and therefore it will ultimately affect into the productivity of the parents of the infants, and as well as the productivity of nation as such. So considering this, we need to have a proper infrastructure as far as the health assessment is considered for respiratory diseases particularly. And people should take care. For example, it is proved scientifically that if you stay indoors, by even if you close your all windows and stay indoors, you are protecting one third from the risk of air pollution. So people should adopt to such measures. And as Mr. Sutaria was telling, okay, you should avoid going into the areas like traffic junctions and these hotspots. Nowadays, because of these technologies like sensors and the real-time monitoring, we can definitely predict which are the hotspots, and then the people should increase their intelligence. For example, if you are at the ground level, your exposure to the air pollution will be higher. So people staying at the higher level, their exposure is reduced to that extent. And we should take these particular cares so that our cost or the burden which is there due to this air pollution is reduced. Of course, there are effects like some people are going for air purifiers inside their houses, and these types of hotspots we should avoid, and people should try to increase their knowledge and gain insights. For example, because of certain cities, we are developing certain hotspots. Like if you enter the parking lots in the malls, you find that the air quality is significantly deteriorated. So there the concentration of hydrocarbons or volatile organic compounds, nitrogen oxides is very high. So those people who are sensitive, they should avoid such hotspots. And the authorities, apart from ambient air quality monitoring, we should monitor the personal exposure of to air pollution, because the air pollution affects you due to long-term exposure, unlike water pollution. If water pollution is there, you will immediately get affected by diseases like cholera, typhoid, jaundice, etc. However, in case of air pollution, it is subtle effect, and the effect is long-term and irreversible. For example, you may get affected because of due to cancers, and as you all know, cancer is irreversible. So therefore, general public they should, apart from depending more, instead of depending totally on the government authorities to improve the air quality, in the short term, they should take precautions like this, or N95 mask, for example. So you should use proper quality N95 mask whenever you are going on the main roads, or where the traffic is supposed to be very high, or the air quality is supposed to be of poor air quality, or those who are sitting in residing in big cities, they should change, once in a month to 3 4 days. They should go for places where the air quality is relatively better, like hill stations at Lonavala, Khandala, etc. Or the jobs of the people who are constantly exposed, like traffic constables, etc., watchmen, security people. So you should give them proper relief, so that they are not consistently and constantly exposed to this higher dose of air pollutants.
Okay, well, that's a lot of useful insights and a sober note to be ending this conversation on. Stay tuned to BQ Prime.